The sequel to Scott Derrickson's horror film from 2022, The Black Phone, has released, and it's appropriately titled The Black Phone 2. I went and saw it last night in theaters, and I'm going to give you my review right here, right now. Before I dive in, please make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, and comment down below. What are your opinions on The Black Phone 2 if you have seen it? And if you have not seen The Black Phone 2, are you excited to check out the movie? What are your opinions on the first movie? And all that and more. For me, this was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, was my most anticipated movie for the remainder of 2025. I absolutely loved that trailer, but The Black Phone, the original, kind of disappointed me. I wasn't so sure what I thought of the daughter and her dream stuff, so there were moments in that movie that I really loved, but at the end it overall disappointed me. And The Black Phone 2, I think, is a good movie. It's a solid 4-star, 3.5-star, somewhere around there film, but it is a little bit disappointing, and it does have quite a few flaws. Let's get started with the cast. As always, Ethan Hawke, great in here as the Grabber. The first scene of the movie he was in, I was thinking, he's a little cheesy and campy, and I'm not so sure what I think of him. But the more the movie goes on, he's the Grabber. He has the mannerisms, he has the creepy moments, and Ethan Hawke, a really cool character as the Grabber, and I really like his performance. The two main leads here, Mason Thames, Madeline McGraw, are great. Mason Thames, one of the best young actors working in today's generation. He was just in How to Train Your Dragon. He's in another romance movie releasing later this month. He's in here, and he's good in here, but by far the big standout for me is Madeline McGraw as Gwen. She was awesome. It took me a minute to get used to her. Like I mentioned, wasn't the biggest fan of her character in the original Black Phone. This movie, I completely fell in love with her character. It took a scene to get me into her, and what they did in that one scene really made me invested in her. The movie definitely follows her more than it follows Mason Thames' character. They are the two lead characters, but the story's more around Gwen and what she can do in her dreams. And she has to pull a lot of emotions, a lot of fear, a lot of sadness in this film, and I absolutely loved what she did. I thought she was great in here. Movie has plenty of bloody, chopped up moments where the Grabber's chopping up kids. Pretty cool sequences. What I overall wanted from The Black Phone 2 was really fun horror set pieces, and we really, really do get that. The Grabber isn't in the film until the back hour. There's the first hour, and then as soon as we pretty much hit the hour mark, then he's in the film. But once he gets in the film, we have just these really cool set pieces. You saw in the trailers, the Grabber on skates. I'm all here for that. The Grabber on skates, really awesome. And that whole sequence was just awesome. And plenty of sequences throughout the entire movie with the Grabber just doing some chaos, I thought was really fun. There came a certain point, well, I'll talk about it later. The first hour really took me a lot to get into the movie. But then once we did, the sequences themselves got me having a great time in that theater. The script has its fair share of issues, but one thing I really did love about this movie was the fact that you could watch this movie and think to yourself, okay, if I didn't like it, I'd just pretend like that didn't exist. A lot of sequels, if they're bad, you'll just say, oh, that ruined the original. This one, if you don't like the movie, I feel like you could just throw it out of your mind instead of, and treat that first movie like its own thing and didn't have a sequel. Because this one kind of expands the lore a little bit, kind of goes different directions. And I don't know how that'd work for everyone, but I think it worked for me and kind of came off as a little bit fan fiction-y at times, which I'm completely okay with. I liked directions they went in with the back half of the movie. I thought it had plenty of twists and turns in here, but I don't know how a lot of people who love that original movie are going to respond to them. And at the end of this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about spoilers, a little bit, go more in depth there. But the twists and turns in the back half of the movie, I really enjoyed. And with that and the sequences, the back half of the movie is a ton of fun. It's really pretty much what I wanted from this movie. Unfortunately, it took a good while for me to get invested in it because the first hour of the movie kind of has this weird setup where they're going to this church camp in the middle of the winter, and why are they going here? And it kind of just you have to extend your disbelief to how they can get to this church camp. You got like a really campy moment where Finney is running in front of a car in a blizzard so they can see him with like a remix of that one Pink Floyd song, probably their most popular Pink Floyd song, Another Brick in the Wall. A remix of that song going on, and it's really campy. And at that point, I'm thinking, I don't think I like this movie. And it took a while for me to full on get into it. But once we got into the swing of things with what I wanted with the sequences, the twists, the turns, I ended up having a really fun time with it. But like I mentioned, does have plenty of script issues. Let's dive into those right now. The script is not the sharpest. Like I said, it has plenty of twists and turns, but with the twists and turns, quite often the movie feels like it's making up its own path as it goes along. It kind of throws logic completely out the window, forgets all about that, and decides to go its own way. Decides, hey, this would be cool. It would be really cool if this happened in the movie, so does it make sense? Not really, but it's cool. And I will admit, I had fun with it. I could forgive those mistakes because it led to some very cool sequences, but it didn't quite make sense with the lore we already knew from here. And the twists and turns, like I mentioned, I don't know if fans of the first movie are going to like that twist because it kind of undermines a lot of things that happened with the original. And that's where it comes in where I feel you could treat that first movie like it's on its own, because I feel like you watch the first movie and think, okay, yeah, that makes sense as well as what they introduced in the Black Phone 2. And while I like that they expanded the lore, it feels like they just kind of, oh, this would be cool. Write that in the script. Also, some dialogue moments weren't the sharpest. Like I mentioned, the setup was bizarre, and that really comes down from a script issue. Like, they wanted to have this at a church camp in the winter, so they have to like write their own ways to get these characters to that church camp. And I will say, the church camp setting I really liked. I do wish they did a little bit more with that, but I did in the end really enjoy what they did on this church camp, what they did on the ice, and I thought that was really cool. I think right here is where I'm going to dive into spoilers. I'm going to put right here the timestamp to skip forward to if you want to skip forward and avoid spoilers. 3, 2, 1. Got a couple things to talk about in the spoiler area. Number one, the big twist, which is that the grabber is the person who killed Finney and Gwen's mom. She didn't kill herself. It was the grabber. And I don't have much to say about that because I pretty much already said it. But I like that on its own. I liked that twist. But at the same time, I can feel like a lot of people watch that first movie and say, that kind of undermines a lot of things. For me, it really didn't. It was kind of like a shocking moment that had me full on invested. That was one of the best things of the movie, I think. But I can feel a lot of people are not going to like that. The second thing is, why have a sequel if you're going to kill off the grabber in the end? I don't like the fact that the grabber was murdered off in the end, because if we're going to have a sequel at a church camp in the winter, then I want another sequel, and I want another sequel. And if you're going to introduce all these cool things, what's the point of having a sequel if we're not going to get more of that in the future? Because I will mention this in a minute, it is kind of an unnecessary sequel, and I'll mention that here in a few moments, but I enjoyed it. It's kind of like, this feels like this could be the next horror franchise that I could really get into. And even though I don't love the movie, I'll be darned if I wasn't entertained. And I was, because on one end, I loved the set pieces. The stuff that I went into the movie for worked. And while it did have a good bit of issues, I kind of wanted more of that going out of the theater. So how are you going to extend a sequel? Why kill off the grabber and kind of ruin the chances for a future sequel? So, not the big fan of that. 3, 2, 1, spoilers are done. One more thing to talk about is, this kind of did feel like an unnecessary sequel, and what I was talking about with spoilers is going to kind of be hard to get my point across here, but I feel like the way the movie ended felt like, what's the point of having the sequel if it doesn't set up for another one, or if we're not going to possibly get another one? Because seeing these cool things happen made me be like, I want to see more of that. And by the way the movie ends, I don't know if we're going to get more of that without spoiling the way the movie ends. So overall, is this a little bit of an unnecessary sequel? Yes, it definitely has script issues. It is a bit slow getting off. But the things I wanted from the movie, which is cool set pieces with the grabber, it worked. And the back half of the movie is really entertaining, and I left the movie like, okay, yeah, that was really fun. It was really flawed, absolutely, but I had a good time with it. Before I give you my final score, please make sure to subscribe, like button, hit the bell, and comment down below what are your opinions on The Black Phone 2 if you have seen it, and if not, what are your opinions on the first movie, and are you excited for this one? And with that said, The Black Phone 2 delivered on the fun set pieces. The Grabber is awesome, but I feel like this was a little bit of an unnecessary sequel, and I don't know how the general audience is going to react to it, specifically with the script issues and a lot of things where I'm sitting back and thinking, they could have done this completely different. With that said, The Black Phone 2 is going to get a B for me. It is a movie I recommend you go see in theaters. I think you'll have a fun time with it, but it's not really one that I think everybody will absolutely love. At least I didn't. I thought it was good. I didn't love it. And with that said, thank you guys for clicking on this video. And with that said, subscribe.